Welcome to our deep dive today. We're taking a look at Chapter 8, Future Directions and Innovations in Agroecology. You want to know what's on the horizon for sustainable farming. Think cutting-edge trends, groundbreaking research, and how this knowledge is being shared globally. We've got you covered.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for agroecology. What was once kind of a niche movement is really gaining traction worldwide. And it's as people are recognizing this urgent need for more sustainable food systems.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. One of the things that really caught my eye in the chapter was this concept of urban agroecology. I mean, it's almost like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Like seeing food forests sprouting up in the middle of concrete jungles. Is this really happening?
Well, it's not science fiction anymore. Urban agroecology is really taking root quite literally in cities around the world. And we're seeing rooftops being transformed into these productive gardens, vacant lots turned into community farms. We're even seeing vertical farms springing up in like abandoned buildings.
Wow, that's amazing. So what's driving this trend? Is it just a fad, or is there something more substantial behind it?
Well, there's definitely more to it than just a passing trend. I think urban agroecology is addressing a number of really pressing issues. Like we're talking about food security, access to fresh produce in urban areas, and concerns about the environmental impact of our food systems.
So it's not just about aesthetics then. It's about creating a more resilient and sustainable food system within cities themselves. But what about the challenges of growing food in an urban environment? I mean, space must be a major limitation.
Yeah, space is definitely a consideration, but urban agroecology is all about finding those creative solutions. Rooftop farming, for example, utilizes space that is often just sitting there collecting dust, underutilized space.
Yeah, I can imagine those rooftops like bursting with life, providing fresh food, even helping to mitigate the urban heat island effect, right? But rooftops aren't exactly known for their fertile soil. How do you even begin to grow food up there?
Well, that's where the innovation comes in. We're seeing these advancements in soilless growing techniques like hydroponics and aquaponics, where you can grow food in a very controlled environment using these nutrient-rich water solutions.
So it's like creating a mini ecosystem on a rooftop, complete with its own water and nutrient cycles. That's fascinating. But urban agroecology isn't just about rooftops, is it? What are some other ways that cities are embracing this concept?
Well, cities are getting really creative. They're transforming vacant lots, parks, even abandoned buildings into these really productive green spaces. And community gardens, they're popping up everywhere. This provides residents with access to fresh food and fosters that sense of community and even beautifies urban landscapes.
Yeah, it's like weaving nature back into the fabric of our cities, right?
Yeah.
Creating this more harmonious and sustainable coexistence. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about another major challenge that's facing agriculture today. Climate change. And from what I've gathered, from the chapter, agroecology isn't just about surviving in a changing climate, it's about thriving. How is that even possible?
Well, you're right. Agroecology isn't just about mitigating the impacts of climate change. It's about actively building resilience into our food systems. And it does this by drawing on a number of principles and practices.
Can you give us some examples? I'm curious to know what these climate-smart agroecological practices actually look like in action.
Sure. One key principle is diversification. By growing a variety of crops, farmers can actually reduce their vulnerability to pests, diseases, and even extreme weather events. It's like spreading your risk. So if one crop fails, others can still thrive.
Yeah, it makes sense. Putting all your eggs in one basket is never a good strategy, especially when it comes to something as unpredictable as the weather. What are some other ways that agroecology is adapting to climate change?
Another important practice is soil health management. Healthy soil is essential for plant growth, water retention, and even carbon sequestration. So agroecological practices, things like cover cropping, composting, and reduced tillage, these all help to build and maintain that soil fertility. And it just makes farms more resilient to drought and those other climate stresses.
So it's about treating the soil as a living ecosystem then, right? Nurturing its health so that it can support life above ground. I mean, that's a far cry from the conventional approach of treating soil like this passive substrate for chemical inputs.
Exactly. Agroecology recognizes that soil is a vital part of the agricultural ecosystem, and it emphasizes practices that actually enhance its fertility and resilience.
This is all so incredibly fascinating, but I'm curious to know what's happening like on the cutting edge of agroecological research. What are some of the exciting areas of exploration that are shaping the future of sustainable farming?
There's a lot of groundbreaking research underway, and it's really pushing the boundaries of what we know about sustainable agriculture. One area that's particularly captivating is the rhizosphere.
Rhizosphere. Now that sounds like something out of a science fiction novel. What exactly is it and why is it so important?
Well, the rhizosphere is basically the zone of soil that's immediately surrounding plant roots, and it's teeming with microbial life. And in this zone, you have plants and microorganisms that are interacting. They're exchanging nutrients and information. It's like a bustling underground network.
So it's like this hidden world beneath our feet, like a microscopic metropolis where plants and microbes are constantly communicating and collaborating.
That's a great analogy. And this intricate web of interactions, it's crucial for plant health, nutrient uptake, and overall ecosystem functioning.
Okay, I'm starting to see why the rhizosphere is such a hot topic in agroecology. But what are researchers actually doing with this knowledge? How are they applying it to create more sustainable farming systems?
Well, scientists are using, cutting-edge tools and techniques to unlock the secrets of the rhizosphere. They're mapping these microbial communities present in different soil types, studying how these communities interact with plant roots. And they're even manipulating the composition of these communities to enhance plant growth and resilience.
It's almost like they're playing matchmaker, right?
Mhm.
Pairing up plants with the perfect microbial partners to help them thrive.
In a way, that's exactly what they're doing. By understanding the complex interactions in the rhizosphere, researchers are developing strategies to create a sort of probiotic for plants. They're boosting their immune systems, protecting them from pests and diseases.
It's like harnessing the power of nature's own defense mechanisms to create a more sustainable and resilient agricultural system. But the rhizosphere isn't the only frontier of agroecological research, is it? What are some other areas that are ripe for exploration?
Another fascinating area is agrobiodiversity, which is the variety of life in agricultural systems. This isn't just about different crops, but also the genetic diversity within those crops, and even the diversity of those associated organisms like insects and soil microbes.
So it's about recognizing that a healthy farm is a diverse farm, a place where different species interact and support each other, creating a more resilient and balanced ecosystem, right?
Exactly. And the more diverse our agricultural systems are, the better equipped they are to adapt to challenges like pests, diseases, and climate change. It's like having a diverse portfolio of investments. You're spreading your risk and increasing your chances of success.
It makes sense. Nature has a way of finding solutions when there's a rich tapestry of life to draw upon.
That's the beauty of agrobiodiversity. It's about tapping into nature's own ingenuity and harnessing the power of diversity to create more resilient and productive agricultural systems.
Wow, this deep dive is already giving me a whole new perspective on the future of agriculture.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Well, then I can't wait to see what else we uncover. But before we move on, I want to touch on one more area of research that caught my attention: integrated pest management. From what I've gathered, it's about working with nature, not against it, to manage pests. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Integrated pest management, or IPM as it's often called, is this holistic approach that emphasizes the use of natural pest control methods whenever possible, and minimizing that reliance on synthetic pesticides.
So it's not about eradicating pests altogether then. It's about managing them in a way that's sustainable and doesn't harm the environment or human health.
Exactly. And IPM involves a combination of strategies. So we're talking about monitoring pest populations, using cultural practices that make the environment less hospitable to pests, introducing natural predators or parasites, and only resorting to those synthetic pesticides as a last resort.
So it's about understanding the ecology of the farm then, and using that knowledge to create a system that's in balance, where pests are kept in check without disrupting the natural order.
That's the essence of IPM. It's about working with nature, not against it, to create a more harmonious and sustainable agricultural system.
This all sounds incredibly promising, but I'm curious to know how these advancements are being applied in the real world. Are these just concepts being studied in labs, or are they actually being put into practice by farmers?
These innovations aren't just happening in labs, they're being implemented by farmers all over the world. In fact, one of the most exciting aspects of agroecology is its global reach and the diversity of its applications.
Now, this is where I think it gets really interesting. Let's take a trip around the world and see how agroecology is being implemented in different contexts.
I'd love to take you on that journey. Agroecology is truly a global movement with inspiring examples from every corner of the planet.
Perfect. Let's start with Latin America, a region known for its rich biodiversity and long history of traditional farming practices. What's happening there in terms of agroecology?
Latin America is a hotbed of agroecological innovation and activism. Many countries in the region have these strong traditions of small-scale farming and indigenous knowledge systems that align beautifully with agroecological principles.
So it's not just about importing new ideas, it's about reviving and adapting traditional practices that have sustained communities for generations.
Exactly. And we're seeing a resurgence of interest in these traditional practices, as well as the emergence of new and innovative approaches. Blending traditional wisdom with modern scientific knowledge.
Can you give us some specific examples of what this looks like in practice? I'm curious to know how these agroecological principles are being translated into real-world farming systems.
One inspiring example is the milpa system, a traditional intercropping technique used by indigenous communities in Mexico and Central America. And it involves growing corn, beans, and squash together in this mutually beneficial relationship.
So it's like a three-way partnership where each crop provides something valuable to the others.
Exactly. So the corn stalks provide support for the beans to climb. The beans fix nitrogen into the soil, benefiting the corn and squash. And then the squash leaves provide ground cover, suppressing weeds and conserving moisture.
It's a beautiful example of how nature works in harmony and how humans can mimic these natural systems to create more sustainable and productive agricultural practices. But the milpa system isn't the only example of agroecological innovation in Latin America, is it?
Not at all. There are countless other examples, from agroforestry systems in the Amazon rainforest to community-based seed banks that preserve and promote the use of those locally adapted crop varieties.
It's incredible to see how agroecology is being embraced at such a grassroots level, empowering communities to reclaim control of their food systems and build a more sustainable future.
It's a powerful testament to the resilience and ingenuity of farmers and communities. They're working tirelessly to create a more just and sustainable food system.
Now let's shift our focus to another continent that's facing unique challenges and opportunities: Africa. From what I've gathered, agroecology is playing a critical role in addressing issues like land degradation and climate change in Africa. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Africa is a continent with this rich agricultural heritage, but it's also facing numerous challenges, from soil erosion and desertification to climate change and food insecurity. And agroecology is emerging as a really powerful tool for addressing these challenges, offering solutions that are both sustainable and culturally relevant.
So it's not just about imposing Western ideas on African farmers. It's about working with communities to develop solutions that are tailored to their specific needs and contexts.
Exactly. Agroecology recognizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and it emphasizes the importance of adapting practices to local conditions and drawing on the knowledge and expertise of farmers themselves.
Can you give us some examples of how agroecology is being implemented in Africa? I'm curious to see how these principles are being translated into action on the ground.
One inspiring example is the practice of zai pits, a traditional water harvesting technique used in the Sahel region of Africa. These pits are dug and filled with organic matter, which helps to capture rainwater, improve soil fertility, and support plant growth in those arid environments.
It's like creating these little oases of fertility in the desert, using simple yet effective techniques to make the most of scarce water resources.
And it's a technique that's been passed down through generations, proving its effectiveness over time. Another impressive example is the use of push-pull technology to control pests in maize crops. This method involves intercropping maize with a push plant that repels pests and a pull plant that attracts them away from the maize.
It's like creating a natural pest control system, using the plants themselves to manipulate pest behavior.
Exactly. It's a clever and sustainable way to manage those pests without resorting to synthetic pesticides, which can be harmful to the environment and human health.
These examples are truly inspiring. It's amazing to see how agroecology is being used to address real-world challenges in Africa, empowering communities to build a more resilient and sustainable future.
It's a powerful testament to the potential of agroecology to transform agriculture and to create a more just and equitable food system for all.
And our global tour wouldn't be complete without a visit to Asia, a continent with a long and diverse agricultural history. What can we learn from agroecological practices in Asia?
Asia is a treasure trove of agroecological knowledge and innovation. From the rice terraces of Southeast Asia to the home gardens of South Asia, there are countless examples of sustainable farming practices that have sustained communities for centuries.
It's like a living laboratory of agroecological solutions, offering valuable insights into how we can create more sustainable and resilient food systems. What are some of the most notable examples from Asia?
Well, one iconic example is the rice fish farming system, which has been practiced in Southeast Asia for over 1,000 years. This integrated system involves raising fish in rice paddies, creating a mutually beneficial relationship between the two.
So it's not just about growing rice then. It's about creating this diverse ecosystem within the rice paddy where fish and rice can thrive together.
Exactly. The fish provide natural fertilizer for the rice, control pests, and even help to oxygenate the water, while the rice paddies provide habitat for the fish.
It's a beautiful example of how nature works in synergy and how humans can harness these natural relationships to create more sustainable and productive agricultural systems. But the rice fish system isn't the only example of agroecological innovation in Asia, is it?
Not at all. There are countless other examples, from the use of biochar to improve soil fertility in China to the practice of system of rice intensification, SRI, which uses less water and inputs to produce higher rice yields in many parts of Asia.
It's incredible to see the diversity and ingenuity of agroecological practices in Asia. It's a testament to the human capacity to adapt, innovate, and create sustainable solutions to the challenges we face.
And it's a reminder that we have so much to learn from each other. By sharing knowledge and collaborating across cultures, we can accelerate the global transition to agroecology and create a more just and sustainable food system for all.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive already, from urban agroecology to global perspectives on sustainable farming practices.
It's been quite a journey, and we've only just begun to explore the vast and fascinating world of agroecology.
Well, then let's continue our exploration. But before we move on to the next chapter, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. It's clear that agroecology isn't just a set of farming practices. It's a holistic approach to food and agriculture that encompasses everything from soil science and biodiversity to social justice and climate change.
You've captured it perfectly. Agroecology is about recognizing the interconnectedness of our food systems, our environment, and our communities.
And it's about finding solutions that are not only sustainable, but also just and equitable, ensuring that everyone has access to healthy and nutritious food.
Exactly. Agroecology is about creating a food system that nourishes both people and the planet.
Now let's delve deeper into the cutting edge of agroecological research and explore some of the exciting innovations that are shaping the future of sustainable farming.
Let's dive in. The world of agroecological research is buzzing with activity, and there are some truly groundbreaking discoveries being made that have the potential to revolutionize how we grow food.
I'm eager to hear all about it. But before we get lost in the details, can you give us a broad overview of the key areas of research that are currently driving innovation in agroecology? What are the big questions that scientists are grappling with?
One of the most pressing areas of research is focused on understanding and harnessing the power of the soil microbiome. As we discussed earlier, the soil is teeming with microbial life, and these microorganisms play a crucial role in plant health, nutrient cycling, and overall ecosystem functioning.
So it's about recognizing that the soil isn't just dirt. It's a living, breathing ecosystem that's essential for life above ground.
Exactly. And researchers are using cutting-edge tools and techniques to map the microbial communities present in different soils, study how these communities interact with plants, and even manipulate the composition of these communities to enhance plant growth and resilience.
It's like they're creating a symphony of life in the soil, orchestrating the interactions between microorganisms to create a more harmonious and productive ecosystem. But what are some of the specific ways that this research is being applied to create more sustainable farming systems?
One exciting area of application is the development of biofertilizers and biostimulants, which are products that contain beneficial microorganisms that can enhance plant growth and nutrient uptake.
So it's like giving plants a probiotic boost, helping them to thrive even in challenging conditions. But how do these biofertilizers and biostimulants actually work? What's the science behind them?
Well, these products contain a variety of microorganisms, including bacteria and fungi, that can perform a number of beneficial functions in the soil. Some of these microorganisms can fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, making it available to plants, while others can help to solubilize phosphorus and other essential nutrients, making them more accessible to plant roots.
So it's like having a team of microscopic farmers working underground, providing plants with the nutrients they need to thrive. But biofertilizers and biostimulants aren't the only way that researchers are harnessing the power of the soil microbiome, are they?
Not at all. Another promising area of research is focused on understanding how cover crops and other agroecological practices can influence the composition and function of the soil microbiome.
So it's about using plants themselves to shape the microbial community in the soil, creating a more favorable environment for plant growth.
Exactly. For example, cover crops can help to increase the abundance of beneficial microorganisms that suppress plant diseases while reducing the populations of harmful pathogens.
It's like creating a microbial shield in the soil, protecting plants from disease and enhancing their overall health. This research is truly groundbreaking, and it has the potential to revolutionize how we manage soil fertility and plant health.
It's an incredibly exciting field, and there's still so much to discover about the complex interactions between plants, microorganisms, and the soil environment.
Well, I'm eager to continue our exploration of agroecological research and delve into some other areas of innovation that are shaping the future of sustainable farming.
Let's do it. There are so many fascinating avenues to explore, from the development of new crop varieties that are more resilient to climate change, to the use of precision agriculture techniques to optimize resource use and reduce environmental impact.
Perfect. Let's dive into the next chapter of our agroecological adventure and see what other wonders we can uncover.
I'm ready when you are. The future of agriculture is bright, and agroecology is leading the way towards a more sustainable and equitable food system for all.
Now let's shift our focus to another critical aspect of agroecology, the development of climate-resilient farming systems. As climate change continues to disrupt weather patterns and increase the frequency of extreme events, it's more important than ever to find ways to adapt our agricultural practices to these new realities.
You're absolutely right. Climate change is one of the most pressing challenges facing agriculture today, and it's essential that we find ways to make our farming systems more resilient to its impacts.
So how is agroecology addressing this challenge? What are some of the key strategies being used to create farming systems that can withstand the shocks of climate change?
Well, one of the most fundamental principles of climate-resilient agriculture is diversification. By growing a variety of crops, farmers can reduce their vulnerability to pests, diseases, and those extreme weather events.
Makes sense. Putting all your eggs in one basket is never a good strategy, especially when it comes to something as unpredictable as the weather.
Exactly. By having a diverse portfolio of crops, farmers can ensure that if one crop fails, others can still thrive, providing a safety net for their livelihoods and food security.
So diversification is like building a buffer against the uncertainties of climate change. What are some other ways that agroecology is adapting to these challenges?
Another key strategy is water conservation. As droughts become more frequent and severe in many parts of the world, it's essential that farmers find ways to use water more efficiently.
So it's about making every drop count, using water wisely to ensure that crops can thrive even in drier conditions. What are some of the specific techniques being used to conserve water in agroecological systems?
Well, agroecological approaches to water conservation include a variety of techniques, such as rainwater harvesting, mulching, and the use of drought-tolerant crop varieties.
So it's about finding ways to capture and store water, reduce evaporation, and select crops that are adapted to drier conditions. These are all incredibly practical and effective strategies. What are some other ways that agroecology is building resilience into farming systems?
Another important strategy is soil health management. Healthy soil is essential for plant growth, water retention, and carbon sequestration. Agroecological practices like cover cropping, composting, and reduced tillage help to build and maintain that soil fertility, making farms more resilient to drought and other climate stresses.
So it's about treating the soil as a living ecosystem then, right? Nurturing its health so that it can support life above ground.
Exactly. And healthy soil is better able to absorb and retain water, which is essential for plant growth, especially during times of drought.
These are all incredibly valuable strategies for adapting to climate change, and they really highlight the holistic nature of agroecology. It's not just about tweaking a few farming practices. It's about fundamentally rethinking how we manage our agricultural systems, taking a systems-level approach to building resilience and sustainability.
You've hit the nail on the head. Agroecology recognizes that our food systems are complex and interconnected, and it emphasizes the importance of working with nature, not against it, to create a more resilient and sustainable future.
And this holistic approach is evident in another key area of agroecological research, the development of integrated pest management systems. As we discussed earlier, IPM is about working with nature to manage pests, minimizing the reliance on synthetic pesticides.
Exactly. And IPM is particularly relevant in the context of climate change, as rising temperatures and changes in precipitation patterns can create more favorable conditions for certain pests and diseases.
So it's not just about managing pests in a static environment. It's about adapting pest management strategies to a changing climate.
That's right. And IPM provides a framework for doing just that. By monitoring pest populations, understanding their life cycles, and using a combination of cultural, biological, and chemical controls, farmers can effectively manage pests while minimizing the environmental impact of their practices.
It's a more intelligent and sustainable approach to pest management, and it aligns perfectly with the principles of agroecology.
Absolutely. IPM is a cornerstone of agroecological practice, and it's playing a vital role in making our farming systems more resilient to the challenges of climate change.
Now let's delve into another fascinating frontier of agroecological research, the exploration of the rhizosphere and its role in plant health and resilience. As we discussed earlier, the rhizosphere is the zone of soil immediately surrounding plant roots, and it's teeming with microbial life that plays a crucial role in plant nutrition and disease resistance.
The rhizosphere is truly a fascinating and complex ecosystem, and we're only just beginning to understand those intricate interactions that occur between plants and microorganisms in this zone.
So it's like a hidden world beneath our feet, a microscopic metropolis where plants and microbes are constantly communicating and collaborating.
That's a great analogy. And this intricate web of interactions is crucial for plant health, nutrient uptake, and overall ecosystem functioning.
Okay, I'm starting to see why the rhizosphere is such a hot topic in agroecology. But what are researchers actually doing with this knowledge? How are they applying it to create more sustainable farming systems?
Scientists are using cutting-edge tools and techniques to unlock the secrets of the rhizosphere. They're mapping the microbial communities present in different soil types, studying how these communities interact with plant roots, and even manipulating the composition of these communities to enhance plant growth and resilience.
It's almost like they're playing matchmaker, right? Pairing up plants with the perfect microbial partners to help them thrive.
In a way, that's exactly what they're doing. By understanding the complex interactions in the rhizosphere, researchers are developing strategies to create a sort of probiotic for plants, boosting their immune systems, protecting them from pests and diseases.
It's like harnessing the power of nature's own defense mechanisms to create a more sustainable and resilient agricultural system.
Exactly. And this is just one of the many ways that agroecological research is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in sustainable farming.
This deep dive has already opened my eyes to the incredible potential of agroecology to transform our food systems.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Well, then let's continue our journey.
I'm ready when you are.
Now, let's shift our focus from the microscopic world of the rhizosphere to the global landscape of agroecological innovation. As we've seen in our previous discussions, agroecology is truly a global movement with inspiring examples from every corner of the planet.
You're absolutely right. Agroecology is not a Western concept. It's a way of farming that has deep roots in traditional knowledge systems and indigenous practices around the world.
So it's not just about spreading Western ideas of sustainable agriculture then. It's about learning from the diverse wisdom and experience of farmers and communities around the world.
Exactly. And that's what makes agroecology so powerful and adaptable. It's a framework that can be applied in a variety of contexts, from small-scale subsistence farms to large-scale commercial operations.
It's a truly inclusive and versatile approach to sustainable agriculture. But let's get specific. Can you give us some examples of how agroecology is being implemented in different parts of the world? I'm curious to see how these principles are being translated into action on the ground.
One inspiring example is the seed freedom movement in India, which is working to revive and promote the use of traditional seed varieties. They're creating community seed banks, educating farmers about the importance of seed sovereignty, and challenging the dominance of large corporations in the seed industry.
It's a powerful example of how agroecology can be a force for social change, empowering communities to reclaim control of their food systems and preserve their cultural heritage.
And it highlights the importance of biodiversity, not just in terms of crops, but also in terms of knowledge systems and cultural practices.
Absolutely. Agroecology recognizes that there are many ways of knowing and doing agriculture, and it values the contributions of diverse cultures and communities. Now, let's shift our focus to another continent that's at the forefront of agroecological innovation, Africa. What are some of the exciting developments happening there?
Africa is a continent with a rich agricultural heritage, and agroecology is being embraced as a way to revitalize traditional practices while also addressing contemporary challenges like climate change and food insecurity.
So it's about blending the old with the new, finding ways to make traditional farming systems more resilient and productive in the face of modern challenges.
Exactly. And one of the most inspiring examples of this is the work being done by the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, or AFSA. They're promoting agroecological practices as a way to achieve food sovereignty, which is the right of people to define their own food and agriculture systems.
Food sovereignty, that sounds like a powerful concept. Can you elaborate on what that means and how agroecology contributes to it?
Well, food sovereignty goes beyond simply having enough food to eat. It's about having control over how that food is produced, distributed, and consumed. It's about empowering communities to make decisions about their own food systems rather than being dictated by global market forces or corporate interests.
So it's about reclaiming agency over food, recognizing that food is not just a commodity, but a fundamental human right and a cornerstone of cultural identity.
Exactly. And agroecology, with its emphasis on local knowledge, community empowerment, and sustainable practices, aligns perfectly with the principles of food sovereignty.
It's a powerful combination, and it's exciting to see how AFSA is working to promote these ideas across the African continent. What are some of the specific agroecological practices that they're advocating for?
They're promoting a wide range of practices, from traditional techniques like intercropping and agroforestry to more modern innovations like biofertilizers and water harvesting systems. The key is that these practices are being adapted to local contexts and implemented in a way that empowers communities to take ownership of their food systems.
It's about finding solutions that are both sustainable and culturally relevant, meeting the needs of both people and the planet.
Absolutely. And AFSA is also working to influence policy at a continental level, advocating for greater support for agroecology in national agricultural policies and development programs.
So it's not just about working on the ground with farmers. It's also about changing the systems that shape agriculture, creating a more supportive environment for agroecological practices to flourish. Now, let's turn our attention to another region that's rich in agroecological innovation, Europe. What are some of the exciting developments happening there?
Europe is often seen as the birthplace of the modern organic movement, and agroecology is building on that legacy, pushing the boundaries of sustainable agriculture even further.
So it's about taking the principles of organic agriculture and expanding them to encompass a more holistic and systemic approach to food and farming.
Exactly. And one of the most interesting trends in Europe is the rise of agroecological living labs, or lighthouses.
Agroecological living labs. That sounds intriguing. Can you tell us more about what those are?
These are essentially farms or networks of farms that are serving as testing grounds for innovative agroecological practices. They're bringing together farmers, researchers, and other stakeholders to co-create knowledge, experiment with new approaches, and showcase the benefits of agroecology in action.
It's like creating real-world laboratories where agroecology can be put to the test, refined, and shared with others. What are some of the specific areas that these living labs are focusing on?
They're tackling a wide range of challenges, from developing more resilient crop varieties to optimizing nutrient cycling and reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
So it's about finding practical solutions to some of the most pressing issues facing agriculture today, and then sharing those solutions with other farmers and communities.
Exactly. And these living labs are also playing a vital role in educating the public about agroecology, showcasing its benefits, and demonstrating that it's a viable and attractive alternative to conventional agriculture.
It's about creating a ripple effect of change, inspiring more and more people to embrace agroecology as a way to create a more sustainable and just food system.
Absolutely. These living labs are not just about research, they're about transformation, showing that another way of farming is possible.
Now let's wrap up our global tour with a stop in North America. Agroecology might not be as widely known or practiced here compared to other regions, but there are still pockets of innovation and inspiration to be found.
That's right. While North America has been dominated by industrial agriculture for decades, there's a growing movement of farmers, researchers, and activists who are championing agroecology as a way to create a more sustainable and just food system.
So it's about challenging the status quo, pushing for a paradigm shift in how we think about and practice agriculture in North America. What are some of the key initiatives or organizations that are leading this charge?
One organization that's doing incredible work is the Land Institute, based in Kansas. They're focused on developing perennial grain crops, which are crops that live for multiple years rather than having to be replanted annually.
Perennial grain crops. That sounds like a game changer. How would that benefit agriculture and the environment?
It would be a huge step towards creating a more sustainable and resilient agricultural system. Perennial crops have deeper root systems, which help to build soil health, prevent erosion, and sequester carbon. They also require less tillage, fertilizer, and pesticides, reducing the environmental impact of agriculture.
It's almost like creating a permanent agricultural ecosystem, mimicking the natural grasslands that once covered vast areas of North America.
Exactly. The Land Institute's work is truly visionary, and it has the potential to transform agriculture as we know it.
It's inspiring to see such innovative and forward-thinking research happening right here in North America. What are some other examples of agroecological initiatives in this region?
Another great example is the growing movement of urban agriculture in cities across North America. From community gardens to rooftop farms, people are finding creative ways to grow food in urban environments, promoting food security, community building, and a closer connection to nature.
It's about bringing agriculture back into the heart of our cities, reconnecting people with the source of their food, and fostering a more sustainable and resilient urban ecosystem.
Absolutely. And this urban agriculture movement is often intertwined with social justice initiatives, addressing issues of food access and affordability in low-income communities.
So it's not just about growing food. It's about creating a more just and equitable food system that benefits everyone, regardless of their income or zip code.
That's at the heart of agroecology, creating a food system that nourishes both people and the planet.
This global tour of agroecological innovations has been truly inspiring. It's clear that agroecology is not a fringe movement. It's a powerful force for change that's taking root in diverse contexts around the world.
And it's a movement that's gaining momentum every day as more and more people recognize the urgency of transitioning to a more sustainable and just food system.
Now let's shift our focus from the global to the local and explore what all of this means for you, the listener. We've discussed a lot of big ideas and inspiring examples, but what are some tangible things that you can do to support the transition to agroecology?
That's a great question. And the good news is that there are many ways to get involved, even if you don't have a farm or a garden.
So it's not just about farmers changing their practices. It's about all of us making conscious choices that support agroecology.
Exactly. One of the most powerful things you can do is to become a conscious consumer.
What does that look like in practice?
It means being mindful of where your food comes from, how it's produced, and who benefits from it. It means supporting local farmers, seeking out agroecological products, and being willing to pay a fair price for food that's produced sustainably and ethically.
So it's about putting our values into action, using our purchasing power to vote for a more just and sustainable food system.
And it's not just about what we buy, but also how we use and waste food. Reducing food waste is a crucial part of creating a more sustainable food system.
That's a great point. We often take food for granted, but every bite we take represents a complex web of resources, energy, and labor. Wasting food is not only wasteful, but also disrespectful to the people who produced it and the planet that sustains us.
Absolutely. By reducing our food waste, we can make a significant contribution to creating a more sustainable and equitable food system.
So becoming a conscious consumer is a powerful first step. What are some other ways that listeners can get involved in the agroecology movement?
Another great way to get involved is to support organizations that are working to promote agroecology. There are countless nonprofits, research institutions, and advocacy groups that are doing incredible work in this field. You can donate to these organizations, volunteer your time, or simply spread the word about their work.
It's about amplifying the voices of those who are working on the front lines of agroecology, helping them to reach a wider audience and create a more powerful movement for change.
And don't underestimate the power of your own voice. You can advocate for policies that support agroecology, talk to your friends and family about these issues, and share information on social media.
It's about creating a ripple effect of awareness and action, inspiring others to join the movement for a more sustainable and just food system.
And remember, change starts at home. You can start by growing some of your own food, even if it's just a few herbs on a windowsill.
It's about reconnecting with the act of growing food, appreciating the miracle of life that sustains us, and recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a more sustainable future.
Exactly. Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey, exploring the multifaceted world of agroecology and its potential to transform our food systems. It's given me so much to think about, and I'm sure our listeners feel the same way.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you. Agroecology is not just a set of practices. It's a vision. It's a movement. And it's a movement that's gaining momentum, fueled by a shared vision of a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable food system.
And it's a vision that we can all be a part of. Whether we're farmers, consumers, policymakers, or simply citizens concerned about the future of our planet, we all have a role to play in supporting the transition to agroecology.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I encourage you to delve deeper into the world of agroecology. Explore the resources mentioned in the show notes, visit a local farm or community garden, and consider how your own choices can contribute to a more just and sustainable food system.
This deep dive has truly been an eye-opener, and I'm sure our listeners will feel the same. It's clear that agroecology is more than just a set of farming practices. It's a holistic vision for a future where food is not only abundant and nutritious, but also produced in a way that honors the earth and its people.
Well said. And it's a future that's within our reach if we all work together to make it happen.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of agroecology. We hope you've been inspired and empowered to be a part of the solution. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and let's grow a better future together, one sustainable farm at a time.